First, if it wasn't for my wife, Carrie, I wouldn't even be speaking here today after what Zach said and the kids said. It's all been said. There really isn't anything left for me to add. Unfortunately, though, or fortunately, Carrie, though, wouldn't accept that. She would want me to say something, but of course she would be really freaked that it's way, way, way too long. So you please just have to indulge me, because I once read a story about Winston Churchill, who was asked how long his speech would be. And he asked the person that he was going to present to how long he had to prepare. And the person said, why? Why does that matter? He says, because if I only have a short time to prepare, my speech is going to be long. If I have time, it'll be short. You can refine it and so on. So please indulge me. We felt to honor Carrie. We wanted to move quickly. We wanted to make certain that we honored her. And as a result, it's been 24 hours. I'm not even sure how long it's been. So this may be a little bit long. It may be a little bit rambling. But again, I hope you will indulge me. The other thing is I have to just say, wow, this is what Carrie would have wanted and would have loved. The people that are here to honor her are out the door and in the street. Also, Zach had mentioned that, but what you may not know, also this funeral is being webcast. And there will be many more people watching it, including our cousins in Argentina. So again, that was Carrie, and that's her legacy. One of the things that I'd like to do and ask each of you to do is turn to the person sitting next to you, introduce yourself, and take a minute to just tell them why you're here today.
Don't worry about it, Dad. All right.
Love you.
Check the clock, Mom.
I hate to do this.
Mom's saying it.
As Zach's telling me, Mom would say, let him go. I'm glad you all passed, because if any of you here today weren't able to articulate why my beautiful wife of blessed memory was why you were here, if you were unable to articulate that, she would have politely asked you to leave. You all know Carrie. She was not one to mince words and had the confidence and strength to know what was right and what she wanted. I know why I'm here. I'm here to honor my wife, my lover, my best friend, soulmate, and mother of my 3 lovely children, Rachel, Zachary, and Shoshana, who have lost the most treasured and sacred thing in their lives. I'm here to try to tell a story that, as my lovely and handsome and caring son, Zachary, told me, only I can tell. His advice to me, and he's very wise, was not to give a standard farewell, but to tell a narrative about his mother that only her husband could provide. I'll do my best, but it's so, so very hard. I've been thinking about this day for almost 1 year, as soon as Carrie was diagnosed. And like my son, I had done the research. I knew the odds, I knew the risks, and I knew it wasn't good. Some of that I shared with Carrie, some of that I didn't. She made it very clear to the doctors what she wanted. She wanted to survive to see her children's grandchildren, her grandchildren. And she made each of the doctors promise that that's what they would try to achieve. Fell a little bit short, but again, she didn't want to know any numbers. She didn't want to know any statistics. She did her best to stay strong, which she certainly did. It's with extreme sadness that I welcome you here all today, as you heard the cantor say, not to mourn Carrie's passing, but to celebrate her life. As we all know, Carrie was opinionated, and she never hesitated to tell anyone what she wanted and what she expected of them. The same was true when she was diagnosed. Within 1 week, and I still have to find the email, she had given me express instructions as to what was to occur at her funeral, what was to occur at the Bel Air Bay Club and the big bash of the party that I was obligated to give for her.
You will all get invites to that soon.
Right. For all of her family and friends to remember her and the good times and the memory of a life well lived. That'll be for another day and another time. She also gave me other advice and explicit instructions, including that if she passed before me, I was never, ever allowed to have any more fun. Her instructions went further. I was never allowed to date another woman, and I was certainly never allowed to replace her. Carrie, please rest assured, I'll never be able to replace you, as you are truly irreplaceable, and no one can ever bring me the care, comfort, and compassion and love which you provided me for 32 wonderful years. We had an incredible love affair, just ended a little bit too short. Papua New Guinea, Port Moresby, Madang, Sydney, Australia, Micronesia, Guam, Palau, Truk Lagoon, Fiji, Dominica, Guadeloupe, Punta Canas, Indonesia, the Sulawesi Sea, Sharm el-Sheikh, Israel, Turkey, Greece, the Ionian Islands, the Galapagos, Belize, China, France, Italy, Switzerland. The list goes on and on and on. I was afraid to list too many because, again, we'd be here all day, but those are just some of the places that Carrie and I visited and had wonderful adventures. You heard Zach refer to her admonitions about safety. Those came from her father. She was called the safety queen. She was always on all of us to be careful, look out for ourselves, not take foolish risks. Normally, we didn't listen too much to her, but what's amazing is with all those concerns, she still traveled the world with me, scuba dove at night with hammerhead sharks, with killer whales, anywhere and everywhere. She also encouraged me always, she was so giving, to take the kids, each one of them, to Europe individually, to spend time with them. Sure, she wanted to join me and come with me, but she understood that there would be some bond and some memory if I was able to just share those things with her, as well as encouraging me in Switzerland to go paragliding with Shauna, despite the fact that she was terrified of what would occur, but go, do it, it'll be an adventure. And that was really Carrie, and that's the essence of my wife. She loved travel, she loved adventure, she loved people, places, and ideas. Carrie, as we all know, was a people person, as evidenced by the unbelievable outpouring of love and support that's evidenced by your being here today and the incredible support all of you provided Carrie and me through her days of challenge. It's often said that it takes a village to raise a child, as many have heard me say before. But it really took a community to beat cancer. And that was you, and that was all of you, and all of you are special to her, and that's why you're here. Despite Carrie's passing, she, with her love and caring, did beat cancer by never giving in and continuing to live, love, and laugh throughout her ordeal. It's so difficult to put into words the sadness and overwhelming sense of loss of my soulmate, lover, best friend, and wonderful mom. As I told my children, the only thing that makes life so sweet is death. If we all lived and were to be immortal, we would unfortunately take life even for granted even more for granted than we do. Please help us honor Carrie by being at yourselves and striving to never take for granted, as Zach has told you, what you have and how quickly it can be gone and lost. Luckily for us as a family, also through this ordeal, actually one of the things that Zachary asked me and wanted to make sure I shared was, what did I learn from this ordeal? And one of the things I learned, we have a good friend, Robert Champion, who has had his own battle with this disease, and he told us that cancer's a blessing. When he told me that, I looked at him like he was crazy. I've become a member of a club that I never hoped to join. I'm living a nightmare that I'm never going to wake up from. But he explained to me that having that diagnosis and that threat and knowledge that you are going to go sooner than you necessarily will, and not suddenly in a car accident without it, you have a chance to really decide what's important and who's important. And the things that's brought me, and my caring for Carrie and my kids and the love all of you have shown, is to just be more mindful. Be there for the present, be there for the moment. Don't worry about the destination. Let's all enjoy the journey. And again, that's what Carrie would have wanted. That's what I want. That gives us joy, and that gives us a hope that her memory will last. We're seriously take from today and realize, I never expected Carrie to get ill. I expected her to live with me at least another 30 years into our 90s and love, laugh, and be together. And it was taken from me and our family a little bit early. So I just ask all of you to don't take those things for granted. I've got to share with you a couple different stories as well. As you know, Carrie loved baths. She took a bath every single day until her last 2 weeks. But what many of you might not know was I proposed to Carrie in the bathtub. We were eating grapes and champagne. And that may not seem so unusual, except as Carrie could only do, I was instructed in the bath to propose to her. We had been married, we had been together the long, long time of 3 months. And Carrie asked me in the bathtub, when are you going to propose to me? And, I looked at her and said, I don't get a choice, don't I get to? She goes, no. And so what could I do? Carrie. I proposed in the bathtub. Rather than giving her a ring, we celebrated again with a nibble of cheese, a grape, and a sip of champagne. Again, I could go on and on for stories about Carrie, and I just have to share just a few more. Another story recently, as you know, we got the great opportunity to go to a bar mitzvah in Argentina. Carrie then got diagnosed. We had to cancel another bar mitzvah to Argentina and a trip to Machu Picchu. Carrie took a targeted drug and was doing incredibly. Even at the time the trip was canceled, she clearly could have traveled, but the initial doctors had talked about surgery the next week and so on, none of which turned out to be true or possible. The cancer at that point had already spread throughout her body, liver, bones, brain, and so on. But that didn't stop Carrie. We still went. She traveled, as you heard, to Aspen, hiking at 11,000 feet, and we got to go to Argentina, not to a bar mitzvah, but to celebrate a wedding. And it was incredible. We got to then travel to Patagonia, where we'd always wanted to go and hike. But the story that I want to share with you is we were at the Eulogy Lodge, and of course, as only Carrie could do, I'd met anybody, not paying attention, and probably doing some work and so forth. She'd already met within 24 hours all 14 guests. But not only that, she'd become friends with all of them. And of course, with only Carrie, one of the guests happened to be a classmate at Semester at Sea. Of course, Carrie, she couldn't quite remember the guy, but the guy definitely remembered my wife. She then is chatting to some other people next to us, And lo and behold, before long, I find we have new friends, who happens to be the co-founder of Instagram and his wife. And again, only Carrie would meet somebody like that. And again, not out of wanting to meet some famous whatever, but just become friendly with somebody and meeting all these amazing people. And that's what Carrie did for me. She took care of the social calendar, she took care of the traveling, she let me do what I wanted to do. And as a result, I have all of you and all these incredible, amazing friends, which I truly cherish, and I hope that you will keep that friendship alive with me and my kids, and not for me, but really for the legacy of Carrie. I now want to just share a little bit about our kids and tell them, that I need to acknowledge them and what wonderful children they are and how much and how passionately and fiercely their mother loved them. Rachel's our wonderful eldest daughter. She's been at her mother's side every day. She's got an incredible network of concerned, caring individuals, experts from Contact with the Lakers, and I have to digress because her mother would have been really pleased. If you notice over here, there's purple and gold. Those aren't from us, those are from the Lakers. Linda Rambis sent those. And that shows how, Carrie touched people, and she was so excited and so glad for Rachel to work with the Lakers and work with people. But the importance of that is as well, these were Rachel's contacts, not our contacts. What does it mean in the scheme of things? When we needed to get in at UCLA, we were met by the head of radiology. She had a patient advocate and rep. Every single session was orchestrated for her, and we needed scans initially, immediately. It normally take days. Within hours, we were told to arrive. The scans had been done. One of the, Rick, who was there, and Betty Winding, helped us, and while the scans were going on, they took me aside and said, we've got 2 out of 4, we're working, we're finding a new tech, we're gonna get all these scans done today. After this session, go get some lunch across the street. Don't go anywhere though, because you're gonna need to come back immediately. They then found issues. She needed a biopsy. The biopsy was performed that day by another surgeon. All this came about really because of Rachel, her contacts at MD Anderson, which is the largest oncology cancer research facility in the world. She found a researcher through friends and so forth. They have over 1,000 oncologists. We traveled to MDA just 3 weeks ago to meet with the top lung oncologist there to validate what we were doing. He was on our team actually from the very outset and was guiding us and helping us along with her physicians at City of Hope and UCLA. Rachel researched the internet endlessly, looking for people and solutions, as well as making certain that her mother had all of the products she needed, including skincare lotions, the softest sheets, so on and so forth. If you know my wife, I had to schlep our own bedding to UCLA and City of Hope Hospital because the sheets were too rough, the blankets weren't right, and the pillows were terrible. Zachary, our son, has been a rock from the outset. He advised, counseled, and loved his mother, assuring her that he and his sisters would be okay, that Carrie needed to use all of her energy to survive, that she was in a fight for her life, and she needed to focus solely on herself. He told Carrie that his sisters and he would be fine. She no longer had to worry about them. He also acknowledged that the 3 of them would be forced to grow up faster than they ever intended, but that was okay. She needed that energy for herself. As you heard, Zachary was there throughout the last night, monitoring not only the oxygen, but calling and demanding the oxygen technician come at midnight because the flows were incorrect and one of the machines appeared to be failing, and then working with him, calculating the numbers and making certain that Carrie, his mother, got the kind of care and attention she needed while she was still fighting. Bringing her home was an ordeal, but we made the decision, and I have to thank my kids for letting me make that decision when I told them that I didn't want Carrie to pass in a hospital. I didn't want her to pass in an antiseptic environment. She needed to pass with us at home in her bedroom, looking out over the canyon, her garden, the ocean, the place that she loved and cherished. The doctors weren't happy. They were worried about a rush to judgment, et cetera, and so forth. The kids supported me, and we were able to bring Carrie home. We brought her home at 9 o'clock, and she was with us to see her final sunrise. Zach actually noticed a little bit of a change. He'd been with her all night, and he gathered all of us together, and the kids were on the bed, hugging her, loving her, all of us, and we had about 15 minutes before she slowly stopped breathing. They stayed with her and loved her, and it was the way it was meant to be. Not to pass, but to pass in her own home, to pass with those that she really loved, and in an environment that was peaceful, loving, and caring. He also helped me with the address tonight. I didn't listen to him about being short. He made me take a jacuzzi last night with him to go over 5 pages of notes that he took on what I needed to say and think about. He made me take a bike ride yesterday to Inspiration Point to honor Carrie in a place that we really cherish and love. Thank you, Zach. Next to our baby, Shoshana, who has been so wonderful. You heard about her unbelievable cooking skills, nurturing, caring, all of which she learned from Carrie. She prepared weekly 2 green drinks for Carrie by freezing all the cut-up vegetables, combining them with hemp, flax, and chia seeds, blackberries, fruits, protein powder, and freezing each in an individual baggie so that Carrie, myself, the housekeeper who was ever there, could just put it in the blender and make the green drinks that she wanted twice a day. Thank you, Shoshana. Your mother loved you guys so fiercely and so endlessly. Each of you were special to her in her own way, and each of you as well were special, bringing her hot meals, supporting us, caring for us. Zachary last night kept asking me, why did Carrie do what she did? Why did she have so many friends? Constantly trying to get me to focus my thoughts on what I wanted to say, how I could honor her, why we're all here today. And ultimately, I realized that Carrie had been touched by God. Some people were blessed with beautiful singing voices that can only come from the hand of God. Carrie was blessed by God in her ability to connect with people, to connect with each of you and find you, be comfortable in sharing with you your fears, experience, thoughts, desires. And in turn, you could share with her and provide her strength, emotional comfort, and friendship. As you've heard, she had an amazing, amazing ability to connect with people, as evidenced today by the outpouring of love and affection. Without, however, her ability to truly listen, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have been her friends. Despite the fact that she loved people and needed you, she knew and had that innate ability to be compassionate, talk to you, care for you. You heard the stories of her girlfriends who said that Carrie was closer to them than their own sisters. They confided in them their deepest secrets, fears, wants, desires, sexual relations, and the rest, as you already heard. That was one of Carrie's greatest and everlasting gifts. The other thing that I need to share with you is that Carrie was really terrified of dying, that Zach helped me also try to focus on and understand, and really, really worried about being forgotten. I think I now understand that fear, and that fear stemmed for her love of all of you, her love for her kids, her love for her family, and the fear that once she passed, she'd lose those connections. The irony is, as Zachary pointed out, if there's anybody around of all of us who's not going to be forgotten, who's going to be in our thoughts or our memories, it's Carrie. How can't she be? She was so wonderful. She was such a big part of our lives. It's evidenced by the 75 emails I've gotten, telephone calls, etc. I just can't keep up with everyone that wants to know, get in touch with her, share their thoughts and love for her, all of which I appreciate. You heard the story about my meeting Carrie. The only thing else that I'll share with you, I was on the bus. I was not on the mission. It was 40 ladies, and I happened to be there for a wedding, but not her wedding, little did I know, but somebody else's. And there was a briefing at the Pentagon somewhere else involving something related to Israel that I had been encouraged to attend. And I get on a bus, and I look up, and I see a woman approaching me in a bright blue dress with a big brochet and looking at me, and all I could say was, "Oh no." Here comes trouble. And it was trouble in the truest sense of the word, the best. Anytime I went anywhere in Washington, everybody travels to the same place. There always happened to be a seat next to Carrie available for me, whether we were at the Senate, at the Smithsonian, etc. And of course, I was oblivious, didn't know, but all the ladies knew what was going on, and they made sure that there was room for me. The stories Evie told are all true. I was oblivious. I didn't pay any attention. She gave me her telephone number. I put it in a pair of jeans, washed it, and lost it, and figured that was it. But then she called me, and the other part of the story that I have to share was she knew I was interested in cars. At that time, I had a Jensen Healey, which I hope one day to have for Zach. Fortunately, Zach, she made me sell it. You know my wife. But she got me a set of Italian Weber carburetors through her connections, which I couldn't even afford. And that was Carrie. You know, she didn't know the first thing about a carburetor. She didn't know the first thing about a car, yet she could sell automotive advertising space to the executives of Toyota and tell them not only what they were going to buy, but where the ad was going to be placed, how many ads, etc. I've only got a bit more, and I hope you'll indulge with me. I also told Carrie through this process that things would happen the way they were going to happen, but I would make certain, as her soulmate, caregiver, husband, and lover, that she got the finest medical care possible. And that was clearly done for Carrie. You heard about City of Hope, UCLA, MD Anderson. We also have a private medical researcher scouring not only every publication in the United States, but in Asia, Europe, and so on. Dave's helped us immensely. He actually was able to find certain treatments that even the physicians that are world-renowned that were helping her weren't aware of, including the use of a common antibiotic that was shown years ago in a study of 50 patients to double the life expectancy of cancer patients. And again, as Zach had said, the statistics were bad, and maybe that's why she survived as long as she did. Having spent almost the last year, all of my free time reading, talking, learning about cancer, I'm overwhelmed. I wish I'd paid more attention to my biology class. But in closing, what I really learned was that that's what it meant to be Carrie's husband. That's what it meant to be her lover. That's what it meant to honor her and help her in any way I can. I'm reminded of an old Sam Cooke song. Some of you might have heard me say this once before, which was more recently recorded by James Taylor. What a wonderful world. Don't know much about history. Don't know much about biology. Don't know much about science books. Don't know much about the French I took. But I do know that I love you, And I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this will be. Carrie, I love you, and I always will.